Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Before you speak, know that in Sparta, everyone, even a king's messenger, is held accountable for the words of his voice.
We are tonight's entertainment.
Now,
How about a magic
what
trick?
message do you bring?
Anytime you're practicing renunciation, you're deluded. How about that now? What are you renouncing? Anytime you renounce something, you're tied forever to the thing you renounce.
I'm sorry about your father. Listen to me very carefully, my friend.
He seemed a good man,
Killing will not bring you peace.
with a beautiful son. First you have to know, not fear. Know.
Vengeance has consumed you.
Someday you're gonna die.
It's consuming them.
It's only after we lost everything we're free to do anything.
I'm done letting it consume me. Justice will come soon enough. Lovely boy.
You know, sometimes when you're having a debate or a discussion with someone that you love and you're having a little argument about something, like who's going to do the dishes or something like that, or especially if you haven't been getting along very well with that person, you know how the discussion starts with something specific and then you start trading all the things that it might be about until you're arguing about, you know, the way that you behaved on your third date, you know, 10 years ago, and the whole underlying unresolved chaos of your relationship emerges through the little portal that was defined by the argument. You know, well, that's what this is about. So what the hell's going on here exactly? And why are we damn near at each other's throats? Look at what happened in the United States a week and a half ago. There's some things to talk about here, and I started to try to talk about them. And I would say that my freedom to do so was rapidly infringed upon. My career was put at risk. And I find this absolutely unacceptable because I am trying to sort this out. And so we need to start talking and listening.
Let the games begin.
The world being made of language.
Yes.
Because it's sort of not really, but wait a minute, because two people have to communicate in order to create something together.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, you're thinking about infrastructures and cities, that is all a factor of language.
Oh, yeah.
Without language, none of this would be there.
And when you talk, it doesn't mean you're right, it doesn't mean you're correct, right? It means you're trying to articulate and formulate your thoughts like the boneheaded moron that you are. And you're going to stumble around idiotically, because what the hell do you know? You're full of biases and you're ignorant and you can't speak very well and you're over-emotional. And, you know, you've got just problems that you can hardly even imagine that are interfering with your ability to state something clear. And so what you do is you do your best to say what you mean, and then you listen to other people tell you why you're a blithering idiot, and hopefully you can correct yourself to some degree as a consequence of listening to them. You see, that's what free speech is about.
Reality is made of language, and that we're like co-creating it with our intention, so thoughts become reality.
It isn't just that people can organize themselves and their societies by thinking. You can't do that because there's only one of you. What you have to do is you have to articulate your thoughts in a public forum so that other people can attack you, and hopefully in a corrective manner. And then you want to, you know, step back a little bit and think, okay, well, you know, I was a little arrogant there, and I was a little over-emotional there, and I didn't get that quite right, and maybe I'm outright biased on that front. And you want to correct what you say, because then you correct how you are, and then you correct how you act in life, and then you correct your society.
That was it. And you can just strap up your leg and put your mask back on, but that doesn't make you what you were.
If this man is everything that you say he is, then the city needs me.
The city needs your resources, your knowledge. It doesn't need your body or your life. That time is past.
You're afraid that if I go back out there, I'll fail.
I'm afraid that you want to.
And to the degree that we limit freedom of expression, we put all of that at risk. And that's partly why I don't believe that freedom of speech is just another value. I think that's preposterous. I think that if you claim that, then you know nothing about Western civilization and history. His freedom of speech is not just another principle. It's the mechanism by which we keep our psyches and our societies organized, and we have to be unbelievably careful about infringing upon that, because we're infringing upon the process by which we keep chaos and order balanced. Well, what is this all about? I can list you some of the things that it's about. It's about inclusion versus bigotry and prejudice, right? It's about the left wing versus the right wing. It's about who's free to choose their language and what what elements of respect that you're due to people who are different than you, say with regards to pronoun use or chosen names. It's about whether the subjective or the objective is going to take precedence, because it's about constructionism, social constructionism versus positivism versus pragmatism. And there's a mother versus father thing going on here too. And you know, we kind of saw that with Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. I would say that was the overprotective, devouring mother versus the tyrannical father, which is not a good, that's not a good narrative from a mythological perspective. It's about also the adversarial spirit, I would say, versus the logos. That the adversarial spirit is the spirit that claims what I think right now is correct above all else, and I have nothing whatsoever to learn, versus the logos. And the logos is a very complex idea, and that's that the proper citizen is the person who embodies truth in speech and attempts to act it out.
Vengeance has consumed you.
That also includes
consuming them.
Listening, because listening is part of communicative intent. And I think at the moment
I'm done letting it consume me.
that we're embroiled in a war on every single one of those dimensions, and several others that I haven't had time to list. And the evidence that we're in that sort of war is precisely the fact that this has attracted so much attention. I mean, I just sat in my bloody office at home and threw up a couple of amateurish videos, more or less attempting to articulate my feelings about a couple of policies, and it's like all hell broke loose. And why? Well, because that hell is right underneath the surface.
Justice will come soon enough.
I'm done.
I thought my jokes were bad. The magic trick.
There's a guru in India. He says every time a prostitute comes to me, she's talking about nothing but God. She says, I'm sick of this life I'm living. I want God. He says every time a priest comes to me, he's talking about nothing but sex. He's full of sex. Fight to it forever. As long as you're fighting it, A, you're giving it power. You give it as much power as you are using to fight it. You must receive your demons. Because when you fight them, you empower them. But nobody ever told you this. And when you renounce something, you're tied to it. The only way to get out of this is to see through it. Don't renounce it. See through it. Understand its true value. You won't need to renounce it. It'll just drop. But of course, if you don't see that, if you're hypnotized, as I told you, you've been hypnotized into thinking that you won't be happy without this or that or the other. So you're stuck. What we need to do for you is not what so-called spirituality is attempting to do, to get you to make sacrifices, to get you to renounce things. That's useless. You're still sleeping. What we need to do for you is to help you to understand. 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 If you understood, you drop it. Which is another way of saying, if you woke up, you drop it. Let's have a little interaction.
It's going to pop out of me.
All right.
I think there's only two things in the world, God and fear.
All right. Only two things in the world, God and fear. Love and fear. Only two things. There's only one evil in the world. Fear. There's only one good in the world. Love. It's sometimes called by other names. It's sometimes called happiness. It's sometimes called freedom, or peace, or joy, or God, or whatever. But the label doesn't matter really. And there's not a single evil in the world that you cannot trace to fear. Not a one. Not one. Ignorance and fear. Ignorance caused by fear. That's where all the evil comes from. That's where your violence comes from. The person who is truly non-violent, who is incapable of violence, is the person who is fearless. It's only when you're afraid that you become angry. Have you ever thought of that? Think of the last time you were angry. Go ahead. Think of the last time you were angry. Search for the fear behind that. What were you afraid of losing? What were you afraid was being taken away from you? That's where the anger comes from. Think of an angry person, maybe someone you're afraid of. Can you see how frightened he or she is? He's really frightened. He really is. She's really frightened, or she wouldn't be angry. How true. Ultimately, there are only two things: love and fear. But I've gone far ahead of what I was planning to do. But I'd rather leave it like this. I'd rather leave it unstructured and move from one thing to another and keep returning to themes again and again, because that's the way to really grasp what I'm saying, maybe, because when it doesn't hit you the first time, it might the second time, and what doesn't hit one person might hit another. So I've got different themes, but they're all about the same thing. Call it awareness, call it love, call it spirituality, or freedom, or awakening, or whatever. It really is the same thing.
Stay with the pain. Don't shut this out. No, God! Look at your hand. The first soap was made from the ashes of heroes, like the first monkey shot into space. Without pain, without sacrifice, we would have nothing. This is your pain. This is your burning hand. It's right here. I'm gonna make it. What you're feeling is premature enlightenment. It's the greatest moment of your life, man, and you're off somewhere missing. I am not. Shut up. First, you have to give up. First, you have to know, not fear. No.
Our normal baseline waking sober lives is one big hero's journey, and it should be up to us to think of it so. And so if we're all on a hero's journey, we have a responsibility to use words to map our reality the way that we want, to be authors of our reality, of our existence, to make a masterpiece out of life.
Someday you're gonna die. It's only after we've lost everything we're free to do anything.
The living are not done with you yet.
Meditating and imitating externally the behavior of Jesus is no help. It's not a question of imitating Christ. It is a question of becoming what Jesus was. It's a question of becoming Christ, becoming aware, understanding what's going on within you. You know, all the other methods we use for self-change could be compared to pushing a car. Let's suppose you have to go from here to, what shall we say, to Syracuse. I have to go from here to Syracuse. The car breaks down somewhere. Say, well, too bad. The car's broken down. We roll up our sleeves and begin to push the car. And we push and we push and we push and we push till we get to Syracuse. Say, well, we made it. Where do we go next? St. Louis. Oh God, St. Louis. We roll up our sleeves and push it all the way to St. Louis. You say, hey, you're making a mess of your life. Yes, but we got there, didn't we?